Awesome. Okay, I've gotten mic'd up, so can everyone hear me? Awesome. Okay, it is very good to see you all again. It has been a very long time, about 4 years, I'm thinking. So it's been good to catch up. I had so many nice conversations with you as, I was just coming in today. I, looked around. It was great. Okay, so do I have a PowerPoint? No, that is okay. So we are going to spend the next 20 minutes together to talk about religion. And that means what it means to be religious and the book of James. James is one of my favorite books of the Bible because among the books of the Bible, this one has a distinct voice. And I think this distinct voice of James, one which merges thought and action so well, can help us take our beliefs and put them into action. James is good at taking the abstract and making it practical. I know Martin Luther probably made James the most famous by saying it was a right strawy epistle. He did not like the book of James. The reason why he didn't like it is that it doesn't contain some of what he believed to be the core of the gospel. I actually think I disagree, humbly, that James is actually a book that's very rich in theology and has over 50 instructions in it. And I love this merging of the theology and the instruction, so I think it's really good to listen to. So in this case, James is talking about religion. Religion with a big R, religion in the abstract, and he describes how to live it well. I'm going to go over 4 characteristics of religion and that we find in James. Here is the verse right here. Can I get a slide? Okay. Those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself from being polluted in the world. Now, even after I'm going to go off script for just a second. Even after a few conversations here, I do kind of feel as though people who are in a church that does not have 1,000 people in it, that are a little stronger, think about religion with a capital R, that is the running of a church, more than people who go to large churches. I bet a lot of you thought to yourself, who's going to run Sunday school today? Who's going to do communion? Who's going to be in the kitchen? Who's going to be greeting? Who's going to be taking down names? Who's going to be doing PowerPoint? Who's going to be doing worship? And in most other churches, that is not the experience. So I think for you guys, this actually might be a little bit of a good message, because right here, there's nothing in this verse that says that pure religion is making absolutely sure the balcony is full of people and we filled everybody here. Pure religion does not say we need to have an absolutely thriving youth group. Obligations come with serving those who are in need, remaining separate from the world, and keeping a bridled tongue. Now, I know in myself, I feel a sense of tension when I use words like religion, especially in connection with reaching vulnerable people. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes. If you guys could turn to your neighbor and ask the question, what do you think when you hear the word religion? I'll give you a couple minutes and then we're going to come back. So please turn to your neighbor. Okay, could I get everybody back? Now, I have some thoughts when I think of the word religion, but Joel, do you mind if I share a couple of things that you said that I overheard? Okay, so sometimes the word puritanical came to mind. The word irrelevance, sometimes a cuss word came to mind. Now, do you mind if you go to the next slide and I'll say what I sometimes might think of? So sometimes I think of Judge Claude Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, if you've seen it. Second picture is a Buddhist temple, so I think of the abstract concept of religion at large. Or I think of the Pharisees that were famously known for accusing Jesus. Now, this word religion itself is actually very uncommon in the New Testament. We find it in 3 places, and it's used 4 times. 2 of the times is used in this passage of James. The other 2 times is used in Acts 26:5, where Paul is talking about his old Pharisaic religion, which he then later rejects. And then the other one is used in Colossians, where it's used in the context of someone being told to worship angels. And then the author is saying, no, you shouldn't do that, because there was a cult going around. And they said, no, don't follow that cult. Don't follow that religion. So this is the only passage in the Bible that uses this word for religion, where it uses it in a light that is positive. So that's why I think it's important to look at, especially for people who are involved in what you may define as a religious institution. Now, today, religion has become culturally suspect for some. However, these verses in James make this concept more accessible, acceptable, and paint a different picture of pure religion. And I hope this sermon can help us see this picture and live into it. In the case of James 1:27, our pursuit of religious purity is done from the perspective of empowerment of both the needy of us and our friends. So what does religiousness look like? As you know, I have now moved to Vancouver, and what you don't know is that I've switched jobs and now working with 10th Church, and I have been tasked to run free and low-cost community food markets, where we give free and cheap food to people who need it. One of these volunteers, we have many people who begin using the program, but then they begin contributing to this program. So one of our volunteers, she lost all of her money during COVID, started using our program because she needed some food assistance, and then we connected with her. And then eventually, once the COVID restrictions ended, she was able to get a business up and running again. And then she was able to get a car, and she was able to deliver food for us. Now it's probably thousands of pounds of food through an organization called Vancouver Food Runners. And I think this story of this connection we made with this person, and the connection that she made with us, where the emphasis is visiting these people and helping these people and walking alongside of these people. This is the vision of pure religion that we find in James. It was the help, and it was her giving back. So let's continue to consider the question, what is religion? I'm going to go over 4 characteristics. Could I get the next slide? Religion is consistent in word and deed. Now, my wife Marissa and I have this friend who today I will call Lola. Lola went to California because she is a musician, and she's a good musician. So then she goes all the way to California, tries to meet up with the people you meet up with if you want to be a musician, tries to get that career going, and then she meets someone who is a famous choreographer. A choreographer is someone who puts together dances for music videos and the like. And then this choreographer ended up being really nice to her. He ended up saying, I am part of your family now. You can trust me. He said, I feel a strong connection with you. Don't trust anybody else in the industry. It's me who's going to take you under my wing. And then he said, you know what we should do? We're getting along so well that we should do a project together. We should make a music video. So then she got very excited because this is someone who was well known in the industry and was kind of a ticket for her. So then she's like, great. So then she spends her own money, hires a whole bunch of staff, hires dancers, hires producers, all these people. And there was probably 20 people on the set after they planned a day and time that they were going to meet and put this together. So then clocks roll, the day comes, and then it turns out that this person did not show up. He didn't answer the calls, he didn't answer the texts, people did not know where he was. Turns out there was an opportunity that could make more money, and money won over friendship at the end of that day. Now, I don't mean to condemn this person. Christ preaches forgiveness and grace, and you need to offer this person forgiveness and grace as well. But claiming something with your words and not having your behavior conform to that standard is called hypocrisy. And this hypocrisy can be costly to others. Instead of empty promises, we can use our words with intention. Have you ever heard the phrase, "The church is not for me, it's full of hypocrites"? James, in this book of the Bible, is telling us that religious hypocrisy starts with the tongue. It starts with the voice. In Proverbs 12:27 says, "A truly wise person uses few words. A person with understanding is even-tempered." And notice pastors and preachers in the pulpit as well. Me being good at speaking, or anyone being good at speaking, does not necessarily equal righteousness. There are many cases where religious leaders and pastors have led congregations astray, even to do terrible things. But churches may choose pastors largely due to their ability to entertain an audience on a Sunday through their preaching abilities. If the person you have on a pulpit on a Sunday, though he has many great words and promises, does not bridle his tongue with good teaching, does not look out with those in need, James says that such a person has a worthless religion and deceives himself. And I think that means that he would be deceiving those who worship as well. So do not be deceived by fancy words, but let the trees be known for their fruit. Lastly, it would be good to bridle your tongue when talking to yourself. I can be someone who can be very harsh with myself. I think it is a way that I try to hold a high standard to myself, so I'm very critical when I do something wrong. If I miss an email, arrive 5 minutes late, get frustrated with something, I may say something like, "How could you do that? You're so stupid," or "You're a failure," or "You're this," or "You're that." But this kind of self-talk forgets the core of the Christian message that I have been forgiven, that I and we need to show ourselves the grace that we already have. Even sometimes I'll think about this and I will condemn myself for condemning myself, in which I'll say, "Oh, I'm an idiot for calling myself an idiot." Now, I would wager a guess that some of you guys may have some of the same tendencies. Instead, as it says in Romans 5, as sin increases, let grace increase all the more. Then through repentance and the power of God, I can sin no more. As I need to do for myself, I encourage you to remember that bridling the tongue does not just include how you talk to others, but it includes how you talk to yourself as well. The second characteristic of pure religion is this. Could I get the next slide? Thanks. This is pure religion shows up. Notice in the verse that spending time with those in need is embedded into the definition of religion in James. Pure religion equals visiting those who are in need and purity. A plus B equals C. Pure religion cannot exist without this visiting and purity. So if I started a new business and I wanted to sell hamburgers, and then I said, no, this is going to be a very special hamburger store. It's only going to be the bread, but not the patty. I wouldn't be selling hamburgers. I would be opening a bakery. In the same way, If we do not look at the needs of the least of these, then we are not doing pure religion. We're doing something else entirely, just spiritual self-help for the rich, the stale white bread of spirituality. Think of the choreographer I mentioned earlier. He talked a lot, but didn't do all that much. Pure religion does the opposite. It talks a little and does a lot. To visit in James 21:27 has a general implication of personal care. It is not necessarily charity, like donating to the food banks, and I don't mean to diminish the importance of food banks, but James 1:27 has something personal in mind. It means knocking on the door of someone who needs food or inquiring for their well-being. And I know that we may have a couple of people who are not here with us that may need that kind of visit. So if you can, this isn't, commanding you, but like maybe think of someone who you might need to reach out for this week and just check in. The third characteristic of pure religion is this, if I can get the next slide. Religion offers many ways to grow spiritually. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret about myself. I sometimes get a little bit bored when I go to church. Now, this isn't anything bad about church. I think church is good, but it is just my personality. I've tried very hard to make it stop, but it's just kind of what happens. Because I find it difficult to sit in one place for like an hour, 2 hours, without getting a little restless. One of the reasons I like this verse in James is that it teaches me the ways to live in the gospel in ways that are exciting, dynamic, kinesthetic, and interactive. There are many ways to teach the ways of Jesus that don't involve me sitting in one place for a long time. There are many ways to show up for someone. This might require cooking, moving, dancing, talking, conversing, delivering. Plenty of activities for us introverts and extroverts alike. We need to honor the whole of our church family's humanity. We allow them to learn what it means to be like Jesus through lifting, talking, art, logic, conversation, and all of these things can be done. We don't just act for the poor, but for everyone, me, you, so that we can have a chance to live a life that drinks from all the wells of human experience. One thing that James does well in his book is he teaches religion in a way that feels alive. The fourth characteristic of religion is this: religion empowers. We do religion because we believe those that are refugees, those homeless or food insecure, should utilize all the gifts that God gave them. But it is hard to do when those we serve are stuck in the stress of food insecurity or past traumas or homelessness. We first then seek to soothe these wounds, asking the power of God to help us, which creates a foundation for further growth. Through our efforts, our mission becomes part of a self-sustaining church. Can I get the next slide? We are invited and contribute to the religious community. The church at large funds some benevolence, which does mission, and missions maintain the purity of the church at large. In this way, mission in the sense of visiting and the underprivileged rely on and contribute to church sustainability. Now, this slide, I debated putting it up because I know it might seem like a lot. What I'm trying to say is that you need each other, and we all relate to each other in useful ways, and visiting the needy, pursuing purity is necessary for religious institutions and us. Could I get the next slide? Now let's look at the last part of our verses today. James 1:27 says pure religion involves keeping oneself from being polluted by the world. The world sometimes tells us that they are valuable only to the extent that they are successful. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge to actively work against old narratives that we might be holding to and embrace the kind of purity that means a separation from the damaging narratives of the world. You are all able to tell people that they are valuable when no one else will say so. There are many such people in need of this in Surrey. We can encourage people to stand tall, be courageous, and have faith. We aim to be God's hands and feet for the slaves of our day, upsetting the powers that oppress them and helping them be set free. We contradict the narrative that success means riches. Participation in religion teaches all of us and those at Green Timbers a humbling, positive spirituality. Next slide, please. So, religion in these verses has 4 characteristics. It is consistent in word and deed. It shows up. It offers many ways to grow, and it empowers. So one day, when one man asked another, "What is religion?" they will say it represents people who are true to their word, people who care for the sick, the lonely, the widow, the orphan, people who visit them in their suffering. And it is my prayer that they will be talking about you. Let me close with this verse. "A new command I give to you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." So through the following of pure religion, people will see the love that you have, and they will come to know our Christ the Lord. Amen.
Wow. Let's clap again for my brother.